As we roll through our Auto Intel Summit, our digital edition today, again, two more sessions coming for you. Up next, we will be very happy to introduce Tim Cox with CarNow, talk about one of the great personalities in our industry. That is Tim. And then following Tim today, we have our Venture Capital Fireside Chat. Great group of gentlemen joining us for that. Scott Wingo, who's the CEO of and co-founder of Get Spiffy, Steve Greenfield, who's the co-founder and CEO of Automotive Ventures. We also have on that panel Lister Delgado. He's the managing partner for Idea Fund Partners, and also Jason Kaplane, who's the co-founder and general partner of Bull City Venture Partners. That's coming up following our Tim Cox session. Well, let's bring Tim on now. Tim and I had a great chance to talk just a week or so ago with regard to his presentation. He was traveling. He said the business is booming, which is great to hear. And we're so happy to have Tim joining us. Tim, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Man, we're doing great. So glad to have you on board. Where are you coming to us from today?
I am coming from you. Let me start that again. I'm coming from you. I am coming from Atlanta, Georgia.
Nice. So glad to see you. I know you've been busy, and I know that that things have been on the run, and that CarNow has just had in light of all of the situation, and this is really the circumstances that everyone has dealt with over the last 5 or 6 months from a dealership perspective has really played to the strength of CarNow. So I'm going to hand it off to you and ask you to kind of walk us through your presentation and the value proposition from that standpoint.
Sure, and thank you, Bill, and thank you, Cherokee Media. Thank you, AIS. Truly honored and privileged to have the ability to present to you today. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been, someone once said, all things work together for good. And I think if you would ask most car dealers if that is a true statement, March of this year, they'd kind of be scratching their head. We've had a crazy year. In March, with us approaching over 4,000, approaching 5,000 partners, it was doom and gloom. Oh my gosh, what's going to happen? My dealership shut down. Then we quickly moved from, you talk about yin and yang, the antithesis of that, which was April and May, some of the most record months in car sales history. Now moving into, oh my goodness, we're running out of inventory. So you mentioned Steve Greenfield, probably the best brain in the space on what's going on. I just finished reading a post that Steve just sent out, basically talking about pre-owned cars are now above where we were year over year. So crazy times. I wanted to take this presentation today, as I sit through and do presentations, I'm sure people on the other end of the screen are thinking, whatever I present, numbers, so on and so forth. Well, yeah, but you just want me to buy this, or yeah, but this. So I wanted to do something different today. Yes, I'm going to talk to you about what's working and what's continuing to work and where we need to look as an automotive industry. But when we walk through a minefield, you don't ask the person on the other side how to get across. You ask right next to you, ask the person on the other side. So I had Sarah Fisher, who's the CMO of Don Franklin, record. And listen, I know this is being recorded. You're going to want to tune in, get real close for what I'm about to tell you. She is going to tell you a step-by-step execution plan on how she achieved in Q2, by the way. Now, Don Franklin is the largest dealer group in the state of Kentucky. And what's fabulous about this, it's easy, and we have big dealers in big metro markets as well, but I'm from Kentucky. And a lot of the bulk of their dealerships are in Somerset, in Columbia, and other rural markets. And what she has done there is what everybody's been talking about in every conference for the last couple years. So I thought it's so important. My job is to partner with dealers, whether you partner with us or not, and pour into you what is actually working. Come in close. Let me give you some numbers really quick. In 2000, by implementing what I'm about to show you, and then she's going to give you numbers, from 2018 to 2019, You know, some vendors, when I sat behind the desk. A lot of people know my story. I've been in the car business since 1989, had the privilege to manage dealerships, sat behind the desk for 18 years. And some vendors would come in and they tell me, oh my gosh, you crushed it last month or last quarter. Well, hold on, I sold 275 this month. I sold two. How did I crush it? Well, you've got this many uniques. How many cars did I sell? Listen to this. Sarah's gonna show you how from 2018 to 2019, she increased the group by 2,700 automobiles, as well as increasing service drive ROs as well. And it is just as simple as stop chasing your customers and start serving them. So we're gonna move on. And I just wanna share several quick things before we jump into Sarah. You know, my friend David Kane, I don't know if he coined the phrase or not, but I've heard this and I continue to use it on almost a daily basis. Experience is the new brand. You know, you might laugh at that. Well, we've been doing our dealership the same way. Let me tell you something. When you create an experience and then create your brand around that experience, Sarah's getting ready to show you 2,700 cars. Why don't you put a pencil to that bottom line at 2,500 or wherever they're at PVR. That, as we say in Kentucky, that dog will hunt. You want to change the experience for your customers and create that brand. And always remember that every single car sale, every single service RO always starts with a conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, you can, including CarNow's tools, you cannot build brand loyalty with the calculator. It's calculated. You build loyalty with conversations. Now, I'm going to share this data with you, and I would argue, other than my friends at Cox, who obviously has tons and tons of data, I would argue as far as digital retailing per se, people coming in and buying cars online, what we've deemed, this is an amazing study. Now, we looked at, listen, 292,917 digital retailing sessions. Let me say that number again, 292,917, 300,000 sessions. The people, now this is not closing percentage, this is completion percentage. Closing percentages are higher than this with all other companies, my friends at Roadster and others. But even them, industry average and ours, when you go in and click select payments, fast cash, fast buy, whatever your button is, do not have a conversation. Those close here as you can see at about 5%. We're coming in at about 5.02%. Ladies and gentlemen, when a customer has a conversation, just one is how we aggregated this data. The closing percentage goes from 5% to 12.74%. That is a 254% increase in a completion percentage. You've got to be having conversations with your customers when they come into your tools. Now, you may say, hey, listen, my tool did not have a communication piece, and now they do. Look, I'm not throwing stones. I'm just saying that the conversation, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. I've got video, has got to be symbiotic. Guys, meaning that one, whether a customer comes in and clicks get e-price, that's how people shop. They come in, they click something, they go back to work. They come home, they go back in. So as they're compiling information, just not bolting on a chat tool, it's not about chat. It seamlessly works into the fabric of that car deal and works into the fabric of you selling an automobile, and therefore, because of the experience, having more gross. I would go a step further, and we're going to show you what we've done with Facebook in a second. But I would argue that a service appointment is a digital retailing experience. Why? Because my friend Bob Lanham at Facebook, the data shows him that if you get a customer in your service drive at least twice a year, that customer is 5 times more likely to go and buy their next vehicle from your dealership. Listen, this is also what we know. This is actually data from our friends at Cox. 89% of consumers prefer to text. There is a reason that people are texting your store. You've got to make it seamless to where they are coming in and they can choose to come in and come out in such a way that it is seamless, tearing walls down, tearing forms off your website to where you can communicate with them. Now, I am going to give you 3 things very quickly that if you're not doing them right now, you need to pay attention right now. This is something that you can take home and it's not going to cost you anything. Okay? I love saying, you know, let's go to the grocery store, and when you get groceries at the grocery store, you can go home and cook dinner now. It's not going to cost you a dime. Things that you need to do right now because you need to be where your customers are at. 3 things. Number 1, you need to be on Facebook. Instead of spending, you know, we went through COVID, and we're still going through COVID, where marketing ad spends were compressed, making sure, so we've we integrated with Facebook Messenger APIs, as well as Xtime and other service schedulers to be able to seamlessly have you run ads and target your customers right where they are, so you can schedule a service appointment right on Facebook. Your people, especially now, messenger traffic, by the way, my friend again, Bob Lanham, said messenger traffic is up 70% since COVID started. Be where your customers are, pinpoint instead of using shotguns. Sarah Fisher is going to talk about that a little later. Google My Business, running ads on Google My Business. People, I just recently looked for another Jeep Wrangler. I bought a Rubicon, and I did dealers near me as I was out one day, and I wanted to go to the closest dealership just to look, kind of to scratch my itch per se, and I use Google My Business. So having Google My Business, making sure that you can be where they're at, having the ability to immediately, whether you set up an AI flow, or having the ability to immediately respond to that customer instead of putting them into the never-ending CRM and praying to God that somebody reaches back out to that customer. Number 3, Apple Business Chat. Number 1, Facebook. Number 2, Google My Business. Number 3, Apple Business Chat. You see here with our friends at Wesley Chapel Toyota running an ad. They do a search on their iPhone and it immediately pops up. You notice their logo immediately takes over, and now they're talking to the dealership. I said it at the beginning, I'll say it again. Nothing ever happens inside the dealership without conversations. How are you putting up brick walls? Are you putting up forms on your website? Please fill this out. I'll get back to you in a couple hours. Or are you serving your customers? The next 2 slides are probably the most important thing that I'm going to share with you today. I can give you all the cool gadgets on your website, whether it's us or somebody else. But these 3 words will change the very fabric of your dealership if, in fact, it comes from the top down. Set the tone. Your people will follow you. Someone told me one time that a great leader is not measured by what they do, but it's measured but what people do because of them. What are your people doing? Are you negative? Are you setting the tone? Or are you getting fired up? Are you getting fired up and saying, guys, this is where we're going. This is where the future is. And this is a step-by-step, like Sarah's going to share with you in a few minutes, of how we're going to get there. Listen, management's got to be bought in. That means the dealer principal. That means the GM. I know some stores, the GSM basically runs and encourages the sales force. Service directors, we've got to come together with a constant plan. And it's not just experience is the new brand. We have to be careful. All the experience. What happens when a customer comes into your service drive? What kind of experience is that? We know, like we said before, if they come in and they have a good experience at least twice a year, that's where you should be mining. That's where you should be funneling other vehicle sales. So make sure that your management is bought in. Listen, all these tools, our tools are, another provider's tools. It's not the field of dreams. You can't just put something on your website and just, if you build it, they will come. And by the numbers that you're getting ready to see, thousands and thousands of other cars sold when Sarah Fisher and her team, and many, many others, Sarah was so kind enough to put this presentation for us. I got this from my friend Brian. He put this cartoon together. If you look at majority of dealerships, maybe it's your dealership right now. How many form fills do you have on your website? When you put a form fill on your website, someone's saying, hey, excuse me, I have a question. Can someone help me, please? And you're saying, you know what, fill out this form, sit in that chair, and somebody's going to be with you in a few hours. That's why when we put together and we automated process, I'm going to give you a quick video of it. When we took over call to actions like get ePrice, schedule a test drive, pre-qualify, and others, ladies and gentlemen, we saw a 129% increase in lead conversion. Now that was with 9 dealers this time last year. Now that we have several thousand running those AI flows, it's settled in at about 70%. If you're running lead forms off your website, you need to get rid of them now. It's not debatable anymore. It's not that there's so many data. We've got hundreds of thousands of use cases, not debatable. I want to ask you, what happens when you go on a website and they want you to fill out this big form? What do? You bounce. So why do we do it? Why is it acceptable? Take them off your website. So I'm going to go through a few things really quick, and we're going to jump through. And I'm actually skip through these. I want to let you know, I want to help you again, whether you're partnered with us or not. We actually have a cheap plug. We have a podcast every Tuesday at 2 called Tim Talks. Steve Greenfield's been on there. Some of the best and brightest minds in the space. Reach out to me at tim@carnow.com because I want to help you. And if I can't help you, I want to put somebody with you that can help you. Because listen, no one's smarter than everyone. Let's always get better together. But these are some things that Sarah and several thousand other dealers have done during COVID, and it's gone so well that they're never, ever going back. Do you have pickup and delivery service? I understand logistics of some dealerships. You may or may not be able to do it. Totally up to you. Do you want to do remote test drives? Again, customizable to your store and your location. Do you have, and this is a key, remote desking capabilities that you can send directly to a consumer's phone, because that's where they spend 80% of the day. Can you put a number on a vehicle remotely? Remote F&I, make sure you do virtual walkarounds, make sure you have content-based capabilities, and then I'm going to be a little sneak peek of what Sarah's going to show you with a marketing video. So with that, just showing you the ability to, and again, these are still COVID, but the ability to put AI flows on your website to automatically schedule service. Putting AI flows to set up test drives. Again, remote test drives. Again, Sarah's going to get into it. Do you know in Q2 of this year, in the height of COVID, in the state of Kentucky, salespeople were not allowed to take ups for 6.5 weeks. They couldn't take ups. And they still ended up 129% year over year of their objective. And how did they do that? They did that by setting things up remotely. Service schedule and pickup, we will go through that. Virtual walkarounds, being able to make sure that you can send virtual walkarounds. Making sure, again, as we show you a very quick clip of a calculator. Again, these calculator parts are not selling cars, but be able to give them payments, customize your process, brand your process, and then communicate with the customer through the process is making all the difference in the world. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is a quick shot of what we're talking about when we're talking about taking form fills off. I'm going to go ahead and let that, actually, let me go back.
For over 50 years, Don Franklin.
I'm going to go back one. Sorry about that. Here we go. Let me let this play really quick just so you can see this as it happens. Notice these call to actions. Again, this is just an example. Whether you value your trade, get ePrice, schedule test drive, all of these things, we can take the forms away and then we can pre-qualify. All of us that's ever been in the car business, as you see this pre-qualify AI flow that seamlessly allows a customer to do a soft pull. And in Atlanta, sometimes it gets very, very, very hot in the summertime. I've been a salesman in Atlanta way back in the 90s and spent 3 hours or 2 hours on the lot finding the right car. Customer thinks they have a 700 Beacon. They come in, they got a 650, you got to start all over. This saves time. Listen, dealer principal, general manager, if you've been waiting and holding out, you know, this saves time for your people. Now you've got that soft pull. Every single VDP in your inventory changes. So now at their tier level, so they know exactly what their payments are going to be. We're going to go into Sarah right now because I want to leave time for questions, but this is just a brief marketing video on how and what happens when you put it all together. And then Sarah is going to take us home with showing you her execution plan and what it takes step by step and how she's now selling thousands of vehicles more than she did in 2018.
For over 50 years, Don Franklin has been serving Kentucky with the convenience of 24 locations and over 5,000 vehicles to choose from. Now we're making it even easier with the Franklin Fast Pass. Find a vehicle, click on the Franklin Fast Pass, and start building your deal your way. Choose your payment, value your trade, and get approved, all within the comforts of, well, wherever you are. You can then either come to your Don Franklin dealership or we can deliver the vehicle to you. Franklin Fast Pass. Fast, easy, no obligation, conveniently located at DonFranklinAuto.com.
That Fast Pass button is her call to action. It is on every commercial. It is on every billboard. It is on every single glass door going into all 24 dealerships. And by the way, I'd love to, she doesn't get into it a lot here. She even created Fast Cash. Every dealer on this call, every dealer looking at this is trying to find pre-owned inventory. She created those same AI flows with Fast Cash in just her Lexington location because we made it seamless, bought 67 cars alone last month. So with that, let me just, let me move on. Let me just let Sarah take over.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone is standing. Anything ever has before in our industry. Digital retailing has been around for years, but now we all see the importance of why we need to embrace it. Having the right tools, implementing the right strategies, and making sure you execute the strategies will help your dealership be on the forefront and be able to be resistant during times like these. Let's take a look at the path that Don Franklin chose to do with our strategy and how we implemented it and the results that came after. So before we take a deep dive into the strategy and results, I think it's most important that we look at where we were before COVID-19 and then be able to really have a broader view of everything that was implemented and the results that came after. So 2019 versus 2018, Tim actually touched base a little bit about this earlier. We had just around 38,000 more good leads, an increase of over 40% year over year. Unfortunately, our sold percentage went down during this time frame compared to 2018. But overall, we sold more than 2,700 more vehicles in 2019 than 2018. And had we maintained that closing ratio or the closing percentage, we would have sold over 4,350 more vehicles. But hey, it's unbelievable growth, and we had a strong momentum going into 2020. So you see 2020, we continued our growth trajectory. For the first 2 months of the year, we saw an increase of 6% in good leads and increase of 5% in vehicles sold. And then COVID-19 has added a rear its ugly head. But hey, considering that the average was 40 to 50% down for most dealerships, we were down about 25%. So here's the timeline of COVID-19 and how everything was starting to go down. On March 6th, the state of emergency was declared. So on March 6th, the Don Franklin execution strategy began to take place. We worked really hand in hand with our director of service ops and the sales managers and our leadership team. We all got together and really put together a strategy that had sales and service work together versus being church and state, which can typically happen in a lot of our dealerships and the way our day-to-day operations work. But as you see here too, on March 23rd, our showrooms were closed. And business, as far as automotive service departments, were to remain essential, but these showrooms were closed. Online sales actually could still happen, so that's where our strategy took us next. I am going to show you first. I know that you all have already seen the Fast Pass, the Franklin Fast Pass commercial with our digital, obviously us white labeling our digital retailing tool. But this is the second commercial that we put in action to go along with the strategy and execution plan. I think it's going to make a little bit more sense if you see it now, and then we can go through it in just a minute.
Everyone deserves a safe and reliable vehicle. If your vehicle's in need of service, Don Franklin is now providing pickup and delivery. Go to donfranklinauto.com, choose your day and time, and we will be there to help you every step of the way. We are Kentucky. We are Don Franklin.
Okay, so as you can see there in the commercial, it was very directive, right? That's what our plan was with our marketing message and execution, was to be directive, give the consumer the opportunity to learn how they can go on your website and do what you're asking them to do. But to get to our execution plan a little bit deeper and dive in here, basically it was that. It was the pickup and delivery. We had, we called Tim with Carnell and said, hey, we got to have these CTA buttons on the pop-up as soon as somebody goes onto our website so that they know where to go, right? You saw it in the commercial where it shows the consumer, the customer, to schedule a pickup and delivery. Then from there, on the internal side of things, we had our sales team work with the service so that they could be the ones picking up these vehicles, but having the managers do a little bit of homework on the back end to see what customers were getting serviced on which days and see if there was any equity. Basically just doing, like, if you have auto alert, or, you know, if you can look at this through VIN, if, you know, when a typical day, a customer is in the service bay and you go approach them about, hey, Mr. So-and-so, you have this equity. It's the same type of thing, but that was the only way that we were able to actually be in front of customers and try to switch them over to an actual sell. So this was our new way of taking an up, basically, per se. With that, our plan of action, our number one goal with this all was to gain market share. It's unfortunate during time like that we had to go through what we did, because this has all been very hard, I know, for everyone. But during times like these, I feel like you either put your foot on the gas or you put your foot on the brake. And our team was all about pushing our foot on the gas. So with that said, so our execution plan, we had put in place communication of the execution plan, making sure that the salespeople, the managers, the service managers, the service writer, like everyone was on the same page. And that the directive came from the top down. We were all on the same page as a group. So like I said, we implemented the scheduled service pickup, the scheduled in-home test drive with AI Tree. Our marketing strategy was the Franklin Fast Pass. We pushed that starting March 20th. The service valet came 3 days later, and we started pushing that real hard. Basically started running that the day the showrooms were closed. And it was across the board that we had the strategy in place. So every single message, from our photo overlays to our commercials we had on air that we ran on OTT, to our digital messaging, using social media to push this, you know, every single thing across every single platform, third parties, our audience targeting campaigns, it was consistent. And that's when you use more of a rifle approach versus a shotgun, because you want to be able to capture the audience and the consumers that are in market. And the next thing that we definitely, and we can always do better on this, and I think everybody can, but merchandising. And merchandising is another important key and piece to everything you do with your marketing, because especially third parties, if your merchandising isn't up to date and you constantly have hundreds of vehicles not photographed, think about how much money we're wasting on these third parties. I mean, it's like going on Zillow and looking for a home and there's no pictures of the home, so you just keep scrolling past, right? So we'll get into a little bit deeper dive into that in just a little bit. So the Franklin Fast Pass, we've been working on this ever since we signed up with CarNow about white labeling the buy now portion of our tools. But this came with a long time of planning and everything else, but COVID-19 definitely shoved it into full gear. But we branded Franklin Fast Pass. People know what it is. They can go online. Obviously, you all saw that commercial as well. It's directive. Everything on our website, everything that explains about it is all consistent. We actually, since the showrooms were closed, we couldn't take lot ups. So we had some signs and stickers and everything made for each of the dealerships that had their own individual text number on there, so that the customer, if they wanted immediate assistance, they could text that number or call in. And we were able to keep track of those too. So with the execution plan of service and sales and pushing service really hard, pushing the FastPass really hard, I wanted to talk a little bit with you all about our service results. And just to look at where we were before, we averaged about 9,078 customer ROs a month. Our customer percentage of our revenue was 56%. So just a few key takeaways here. Automotive repair nationwide was down 41% in April. And during that same time period, we were only down 8.5%. We did see a decline of over 17% in total customer ROs during the month of April and May, but our average ticket went up over 11%. Now, Car Now, Buy Now, this is some really cool information. I know Tim's excited to see this. You'll notice that our Q1 average between April and our Q1 versus Q2, in April and May, we saw an increase of over 37% in good leads generated from the Car Now and Buy Now compared to Q1. That is huge. We also saw our sold and closed ratio, or our sold and closed percentage, increase by over 50% on Car Now and Buy Now leads. Now, vehicles sold in Q2 from Car Now and Buy Now increased by a little over 107%. Q1 versus Q2 revenue that was generated from Car Now and Buy Now increased 112%. You'll notice, and that has everything to do with training, but pushing, branding the Franklin FastPass, showing people what to do, branding, like schedule your service, having those CTAs on there, really having everything revolve around what you want that consumer to do once it gets your website. If you have, if we didn't have all the efforts going towards the Franklin FastPass and just towards schedule your service, then all those are just buttons, basically logos on your website that prove no relevance to anyone outside your dealership. So that's where it's so important. And you can see right in front of you the growth that we've had just by implementing those things. Now, Google Analytics, we wanted to take a look at this too, to see in the state of Kentucky, Q1 versus Q2, just, we said that we were growing. And Google Analytics is an essential tool for monitoring how customers are getting to your website and the effectiveness of your marketing efforts. As mentioned, an objective of our execution plan was gaining market share within the state of Kentucky. So in Q1, we were already showing year-over-year growth in the amount of online shoppers in Kentucky, reaching our website with the amount of new users up, which was 34%. But our preparedness allowed us to add to that growth even more in April and May, with new users, unique new users being up 80% from the same time period in 2019. Now, some of these shoppers may have gone to the competitor sites in the past, but because we acted so quickly to inform them about the services and the tools we put in place to be able to continue operations and serve customers, they came to us. That big of a jump from Q1 to Q2 is amazing. Like you don't typically see ever that type of increase. So that just goes to show you, like, you put in the work, you put in the strategy, and you implement it and you execute it, and it will grow. Now, our sales results. So we wanted to take a look at cross-sell and our market share, because obviously we've talked about this. One of our main goal was to increase our market share. Now, looking at Q1 over Q2, the analytics that showed more shoppers were coming to our website, but that alone doesn't prove we made gains against our competition. Here are the results that show the actual impact of our efforts in gaining market share in the state of Kentucky. These numbers represent strictly in-state sales for 3 of the largest groups in the state, especially honed in our market. Our average share of the new vehicle sales in Q1 was 4.25%, while for used vehicles, 1.73%. In April and May, we averaged a new vehicle share of 5.84%, which is an increase of 42%. And our share for used vehicles increased over 62%. We increased our market share by 62% in April and May. Now, year over year, April overall vehicles sold, we were down 16% in April, which is not bad at all, considering, again, the average was 40 to 50% for some dealers. And then let's take a look at May. May was a record-breaking month for us, out of all time. Our average gross increased by 27%. We had a 30% increase in good leads. We had about 29% increase in vehicles sold year over year. And then our sold percentage stayed flat. So that was good. You know, we stayed flat from 2019, but we had so many more leads. So that's huge. But if you look at 2018 compared to 2020, like 2018 to 20, like that's about 43% increase in vehicles sold. So hats off to all the guys and everyone working in the Don Franklin Auto Group, because it was definitely a group effort. But I think just looking over this and having our strategy put in place and everybody holding strong, these are the type of results that you get. Just some key takeaways here. Anytime, I think, like, even if there's not a crisis, even if there's not a pandemic going on, I think it's always great to have that plan, that execution plan, the strategy to how you plan on your dealership gaining market share, how you're going to set yourself apart during times like these, but then in times just in general. What does your dealership offer that no one else can? Why should they come to you? What experience do you offer that no one else does, or that how you do it differently? Having a marketing strategy to execute that message with consistency and frequency across all platforms, specifically targeting those in market. Remember, rifle versus shotgun. And being consistent with that message on everything that you do. Social, digital, OTT, broadcast television, radio, whatever it is that you put your flag in, make sure that that message is strong, it's direct, it is simple, and the consumers will automatically know what exactly you want them to do. So when they go to your website, they're like, oh, I know what to do here. I know what the Franklin Fast Pass is. I know how I can schedule my pickup and delivery. Just keep it simple, but keep it frequent. That way it's on top of mind, because that's the other key of this, is being on top of mind. Know your competition and how to increase the market share. Like I said, if you know that they're putting on the brakes, you pump the gas. Know like where the weaknesses are. Know how they're going to try to get more market share on their own, but then try to think of creative outside the box ways for you to pick that up and not them. Know your data. I know that we went over a lot of stats and a lot of data today, but this is key, because you've got to keep your vendors in check. Look, the number one thing a vendor's job is to sell you things, right? Oh, well, you've got 50,000 SRPs and da-da-da, and they use all these acronyms in their wheelhouse, right? That you might not understand, but you don't feel like you want to ask either. So it's important, though, that you understand the data and what it means and your ROI. Keeping track of your ROI and really looking at, okay, Cars.com's bringing this, AutoTrader's doing this on your back end, not what they say, but on your end. Google Analytics, your CRM, if you use VIN, if you use whatever it is, Dealer Socket, whatever it is, then you need to know how to pull this information, but make sure the right information is in there as well. And that is also directed at, to your sales team and your sales managers, that they keep enforcing to make sure that the salespeople put the right data in, because like they always say, garbage in, garbage out. But a lot of like the internet leads that come over as ADF XML, you can't fudge those, because that's how it is. And that's where the leads that had influence, you can tell now through our CRM that we utilize, you can see which leads have had influence, or which lead sources have had influence over that lead that sold. So there's a lot of different ways we can look at this. There's a lot of things you can look at in Google Analytics for as well. Just make sure, there's a lot of tricks here and there about, making sure everything has an ad tag, UTM code. That way you can track literally the path of the customer and how they get to you, so you can better execute your strategy and execute all the marketing that you are putting in place across the board. And just the last thing that I just want to kind of touch base on again is communication. Being able to have open communication, making sure that everyone knows what page you're on, what the plan is. This person is doing this and this person is doing this. They know their roles, and just making sure everybody in the top down has to reiterate this and continue to communicate to the managers and the managers to the salespeople. If everyone's in complete communication, then everything's going to work a lot smoother, and you're going to be able to execute the plan that you have in place much more efficiently. I truly appreciate everyone's time today, and I hope that you were able to learn and get an idea for your own dealership from this. You know, and if you have any questions or want to take a deeper dive into your own dealership, then let me know. Reach out. My information is at the bottom of the screen, so feel free anytime.
So listen, if you look, phenomenal. Now you know why I wanted you to hear it directly from her. Now you know why it's not debatable. This is what happens when you take forms off your website. This is what happens when you stop chasing your customers. One thing that I want to point out, and then I'll zip it, and I forgot it was this good. As you said before, listen, over 18 and 19, they increased 2,700 cars. Now they're over 4,000 cars since they partnered with us in 2019. Average gross increase of 27%. Average vehicles sold increase 42%. Bill, I mean, I think Sarah should just drop the mic and walk away. I'd love to answer any questions. By the way, I'll be happy to connect you with Sarah. She wants to help like we do. And just that is phenomenal information.
Tim, thank you so much, and just appreciate you, and man, I think we all would love to have customers like the Don Franklin Group. Man, congratulations to you on that. So, a couple of questions that came in during Sarah's presentation. Certainly, there is some investment for a dealership or dealership group in terms of this. What do you find are some of the biggest gaps from those stores that are considering this type of approach, and those like the Don Franklin Group who've really embraced it from that side? What are some of the communication or maybe knowledge gaps that people like you and your team need to help with dealers to take them from where they are currently to, let's say, all the way to where a Don Franklin Group is today?
Well, there's several prongs here. First of all, there has to be a champion inside that organization that's going to manage it, period, end of story, whether it's us or anybody else. I personally have been preaching that for 4 solid years. There's got to be a champion inside the store. Now, in Sarah's case, when we presented 2 years ago to Sarah and the Franklins, she pulled me aside and said, Tim, you're from Kentucky. You know that Somerset and Columbia and all these other places are rural. I don't have champions there. So what we came together, again, no one's smarter than everyone, and they had some rock stars in Lexington. So the leads came into Lexington, and then they had a few key salespeople there. So they cultivated them. They loved on those customers, and they said, hey, Mr. Smith's coming in. He's got an F-150 trade. This is where his credit is. This is what he expects. And then there was the handoff. And in COVID, March 6th, it was a state of emergency. Sarah was on the phone with me, and on the phone every day, all day till 11 o'clock at night, trying to put together this execution plan. And if you remember, you know, everybody was dumping media, because everybody was shut down. She took it, embraced it, and took those cheap ad spends and started branding and cultivating that Franklin Fast Pass. And like she said, if you do it the right way, customers know what to expect, because here's the CTA that says Franklin Fast Pass, boom, boom, boom. And at that point, the customers will do a lot of the work themselves. You just got to be able to receive it on the back end.
And one other follow-up question, because I think it's always worth noting, and it still surprises me to this day. Obviously, when COVID struck and they had to reevaluate what they were doing, how they were doing it, it was brilliant, obviously, to go to the service drive, right? Because that was an opportunity that already drove a lot of revenue into their dealership groups, into their stores. But man, it had to be done during the COVID timeframe. But it's really, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, man, the service drive and the opportunity there to move customers from just service customers into maybe the purchase of a new or a pre-owned vehicle is something that needs to happen even outside of that environment. And I know with your time in the stores, you probably have seen that, probably preached that as well. Do you find that your customers and other dealerships that you talk with are truly taking the full advantage that they can of their service drive?
I'd love to tell you yes, but no. And I'm not, you know, there's a lot of great equity tools out there. But in our Lexus store, we had one of those tools, and it worked it was Auto Alert, worked very, very well, but it was personnel-wise, it was a 90-day thing, and then it kind of fizzled out, right? Creating that environment, creating that ecosystem, as we like to say, that your dealership has got to be an ecosystem. And you have to look at it that way, that you're cultivating. If you take care of a customer, and literally take care of that customer, they will be loyal to you, especially in the service department. So are people doing that? No. So what they were doing is salespeople couldn't take ups. They weren't allowed back then, but they've continued this process. So when they would schedule that remote pickup and delivery for service, a salesperson was going out instead of the service advisor and dropping off a new vehicle, okay? Picking up their old one, coming back. Now, did they sell hundreds of vehicles a month? No. Did they pick up an extra 10, 15 units? Yes. So those type of thinking out of the box, adding over and above to your equity calculators and the things that you're working in the service drive, you know, has got to be built into the fabric of your store. And again, it's got to start from the top down.
Tim, one final question, and then we'll let you go. Thank you so much for your time today, and appreciate all that you've shared with us. In those markets, and it may not be in this Kentucky market specifically, but in many markets around the country, there's a keen awareness of what's happening with companies like Vroom and Carvana and those type of services for the consumer. As you go in and you speak with some of your customers, as you visit again around the country, what do you find is the biggest anxiety point from dealerships, or do you find it at all? I'm just curious from your experience.
No, absolutely. There's anxiety there, but dealerships like Don Franklin and others, our friends at Lithia, Steve might be able to, are creating their own Carvana experience. In fact, another commercial, obviously Sarah does a phenomenal job with these commercials. She did a spoof on Carvana, and it was kind of a funny commercial. We're basically said, Carvana's going to sell you a car. Where are you going to get the car serviced? You're going to come to us. Let us take care of everything. And it was a spoof, right? We'll deliver you. So there's a lot of dealers, as we're putting our toe in the water and as we're seeing, oh my gosh, stats like this, 27% gross increase. Listen, there's a reason we stay in a Four Seasons versus a Motel 6, is it not? Or wherever we're staying, because of the experience. We think it's so different because we've been selling cars for 30 years that just get them in, that mentality. We understand people are now seeing that when they take care of the customer, we're selling more cars, proof that Sarah just said, and we are making more money. So the dealer groups that I'm personally working with are creating these experiences to where they deliver that like a Carvana, and then of course, marketing and selling the hometown experience, the service drive, and so on.
That is Tim Cox with CarNow. Tim, great job, man. So good to see you today. Hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you soon.
Awesome. Hey, thank you guys. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you and Joe and everything you guys do over there. Thank you.
Tim, great to see you. And again, thank you for a great presentation. Tim Cox with CarNow and the future of automotive retail.